It is 4:39, so I will call to order the North Kingstown School Department Building Subcommittee, Wednesday, March 12th, 2025. First item on the agenda, if you haven't signed, just quickly, if you haven't signed the signature sheet, just let us know and we'll sign that around, but there is a quorum present. First item is public comment. Would anyone like to speak? Donna?
Hi, Donna Lico, 62 Edgewood Drive. I've been following what the building subcommittee has been doing for a while, off and on. I'm not only a resident of the town, but I'm also a 36-year veteran teacher in a middle school that was built in 1990. And I've just been watching the plans and the way they are, and I noticed immediately when I saw the plans that there were some concerns about student supervision, student safety, and general working conditions for teachers. And so I've been asking, as I go to professional developments and different places where I run into teachers from North Kingstown, and I consistently hear that teachers don't really know what's going on with the plans, haven't had a chance to have any input. So I'm here to ask you to please make sure you're talking to the people at length that are going to be using these spaces, because there are some things that even the most well-intentioned architect might not think of when designing a school. When our school a few years ago went through a renovation bond issue, the plans were in our teacher's room for 2 weeks, and there were multiple opportunities for not only conversation with the administration and the architects, but also opportunities for written feedback. And I do think that kind of feedback from the people using the space really matters. And I'll just give you a couple of examples I noticed. In the middle school, the bathroom door is placed kitty corner to the two wings, which means no teacher can step outside their classroom door and see what's going on in front of the bathroom. And that matters when you're in a middle school, because I teach across from the bathroom. I know what's going on in there. The teacher's room is so far away from the classrooms that in the 25 minutes the teacher has to eat and go to the bathroom, they're never going to make it to the teacher's cafeteria. It's just too far a walk. I had concerns about adequate storage space for classroom supplies that are easily accessible. As a science teacher, I can tell you there's a ton of stuff, and there's a lot of competition for storage space that you can access easily from a classroom. So that may be there, but I didn't see it. And then in the plan for Quidnesset, the idea of putting a large window into the hallway, because otherwise the room would be completely walled in. The first thing I thought of was a lockdown drill. And how does, I teach in a classroom with a lot of windows. Lockdown drills are much more stressful in my classroom because of all those windows. To say nothing of, all that activity in the hallway that would be passing by the classroom would be problematic for students that have attention issues. So I did send a letter to the school committee outlining some of my things I noticed. I am not the expert. I'm asking you to please make sure you're including the experts, the people that will be using the space.
Donna,
Thank you.
I wrote down what you talked about just so we can bring it back to the architecture just to have those questions. But I also just want, we did have meetings with the faculty at Wickford Middle School as well as representatives from Davisville Middle School to look at drawings, and even most recently at DMS because of some of the changes we were making within the design from the last addendum. So we have, it just might be that because it hasn't been a while, people are like, oh, we haven't done that. But there will be further meetings with them as we move forward with the drawings and all. So,
Thanks. I actually ran into John Garcia the other day, the president of the union, and even he said he hadn't seen anything in a long, long time or hadn't heard of anything.
Yeah.
So,
and I can talk to John. Specifically, John and I talk a lot. We were working with the Wickford Middle School staff. John's at Forest Park, but again, we'll make sure we talk with him.
okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can I add to that at this point?
Well, we probably shouldn't because it's public comment.
Okay. Can I add to it after public comment?
Would anyone else like to speak? All right.
So Megan, I think we just gotta look at it to make sure we stay with the agenda items here so we're not,
Okay, I can make it really fast.
yeah, I'm just trying to, I just want,
Sure.
I'm just trying to where we can
Yep, that's fine. I'll save it for next time. I mean, it's something I've mentioned many times before, so that's fine. I'll just reiterate it. Next time it was to tack on to that. That's okay.
I think I think it should be okay. I just wanna make sure we're not breaking any.
No, I just to speak to that real quick, I think at some point in the future with an agenda item, we might wanna just reiterate to the public that the plans are changing and changeable in stage 3. I feel like the plans people saw when they voted on the bond, they still might think that those are the plans we're gonna get. So even just to speak to those issues might be a moot point. And I just wanna make sure that we're very clear with the public on what the plans are that are in place, that may not change, but then that they are changed.
Sure.
This is a very fluid process. I still feel like people voted on a bond and thought they were gonna get what they saw. And I think people have to understand that's not what they're gonna get.
As we go through stage 2, stage 3, all of the
Right, but
designs and schematic designs do change, and we do take in the feedback from others of making those changes.
Yes, right, again,
Part
just make
of-
it very clear.
Part of schematic design in stage 3, there is a chance to kind of reiterate some of those things, comments, and also have more meetings. So
Yes,
with
thank you.
teachers, to end user stakeholders, that's part of the submission too. So.
Right, that's important, so that would help. Thank you.
All right, next on the agenda is consideration of a presentation from the Rhode Island Building and Construction Trades Council at a future meeting. So who wants to talk about that?
I'm glad to.
Yep, go ahead.
So on March 3rd, Dr. Earl, Dr. Duver, and myself received an email from a David Langlace. And Mr. Langlace sent an email explaining the benefits of a project labor agreement. He sent it to me in both of my capacity here as a school subcommittee, building subcommittee member, and also as a member of the Public Safety Project Complex Committee. So so 2 things. First, I can tell you that while it was a long, long time ago, back in North Providence, we built 2 middle schools, and we entered into what I think was the first PLA or project labor agreement in Rhode Island at that time. I could be wrong. And we did it because about 7 years earlier, we built a high school, and we received a lot of issues with non-union labor. There was a picket line which delayed the entire project. We had change orders, we had shoddy workmanship. I was on the council at the time, and that was my experience. I'm just giving my experience. Then 6 years later, we built 2 middle schools, and someone came to us with this PLA approach. We did some research, and we thought it was worth trying. My experience at that time was phenomenal. Again, one time, 25 years ago, a lot has changed. But I can tell you that it came on time, it came on budget, we had no work stoppages, we've had no issues with the workmanship over the next 25 years. We actually did a lot of preliminary work, and believe it or not, there were rehabs also. So they entered into the schools on the last day in June, and we opened up the schools in September on time. So again, it's just, my experience was very, very good. That was then, this is now. I wanted to share that with all of you. What we did in the Public Safety Committee is that we talked about it today. There were definitely some concerns. I think anyone would tell you, our architect told us that a PLA would increase the cost of the project 1 to 2%. At the same time, though, he explained that there are unknown savings that you don't know because of change orders, because of bad workmanship, and because of work stoppages. So in reality, there's usually a net savings, but it does add to the original price. And so what we decided today was that we are inviting Mr. Langlace to our next meeting to give us a presentation, 5 or 10 minutes, and answer any questions. That's what we decided today. As one member of the committee, I would encourage the suggestion that we invite them to come to a building subcommittee meeting, talk about what a project labor agreement is, and answer any questions that we may have. It seems like it's changed since 25 years ago. I read what he sent us, and it seems like there's now a state law that says that if you go with a PLA, you have to have an outside analysis done to explain whether it's beneficial to the project. So far, they've done 50 analyses, if that's the right plural of analysis, and they are 50 for 50. So chances are any analysis will show that it is beneficial, but I still think it's worthwhile. On our end, we're gonna tell Mr. Langlace that we don't think it's worthwhile for Station 1, because Station 1's under 20 million, and history shows that a project that small doesn't benefit from a PLA. But for the public safety complex, which is about 40 million, we think it is beneficial, and so we want to hear more about that. And so it may not apply to our capital projects, because individually, they may be under that threshold, but for the middle school, it may work. So my suggestion is that and I'll be glad to do this if it helps the superintendent, we share the email that the three of us received with all the attachments. It's a volume of information with the entire committee, and we invite Mr. Langlace to a future meeting to give us a 10-minute presentation and answer any questions that we have. Future meeting should probably be at least a month away to give us time to read the volume of information that he sent us. That's just my suggestion. I think it's worthwhile for us to at least listen to him and see what the next steps are.
I may add a little bit. So
Sure, of
I
course.
did, in Cranston, we did do the analysis in 2021, or 2021 for one of the schools. I worked with the PLA, still working with PLA on 2 schools. If it makes sense, it makes only sense on a larger project, so not smaller jobs. The quality is definitely there, but the geometry does provide that, whether it's a PLA or prevailing wage. There are some benefits to the PLA, but there are definitely sort of concerns on cost increases. However, that's also a little bit questionable. Like, it's really hard to gauge. We've been trying to gauge that, whether it's more or not more. And it's almost like that fine line. You have to do a lot of research to understand that. But we did have to engage a lawyer, basically a counsel, to do that study.
That's a new state law, right?
I think,
so.
I don't know if it's new, but in
think it's-
2021 we had
Well,
to do.
new to me, because I think we did this in
Yeah.
2000.
Yeah, it
So
was
it's-
required.
So it's new to me,
It was a
exactly.
requirement.
It's not a
we had to
requirement.
do.
And I think that
There
South
was an
Kingstown,
expense
South
associated.
Kingstown just decided to go with the PLA in the high school.
A lot of the schools right now, new construction schools go with the PLA.
That's my understanding.
I
But-
mean, certainly pros and cons.
I think and I agree there are pros and cons. I think at the very least it's worthwhile for us to hear him and pepper him with questions, or maybe his designee, so him or her, and
Yeah.
pepper them.
Please log in through the Google Home app.
And pepper them with questions that we may have, and go from there. But that's, I think at the very least we want to hear it and maybe have the analysis done. But that's just my opinion.
Do we need a motion to,
I'll make the motion that we invite Mr. Langlace to a future meeting. I can, if it's okay with the chairs, I'll coordinate the meeting date with the superintendent to find out what the right meeting would be, and hopefully he can make it, or his designee can make it. And then I will also send the information to the committee, or through the superintendent, send it to the committee so you can read it. And I would ask that, so that's in the form of a motion.
I
Is there a
will
second?
second that to open for discussion.
Call a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? The ayes have it. So we'll have the town manager and the superintendent plan that future meeting for us. Thank you.
Can I just ask one question about the meeting planning? Is the PLA something that we would want, like, let's say we decided to go forward with the PLA for the building, well, actually for any of these projects, but do we want it at the beginning? Like, how early, we want it as early as possible, the
Ingrid,
PLA
At
to
the
be.
time-
You do it before you go out to bid, right?
Yes, at the time construction manager is procured, it has to be written into the RFQ, because that is a decision making for the construction managers, whether they want to go after the job. They have to be prepared to sign the PLA. The PLA is signed between the construction manager and the union, not between the town and the union. So that's their agreement, and then that goes into the city, into the town for record, so.
So the reason I'm asking is because we are getting closer to that stage, so I would think that if we wanna meet with him, we would need it kind of sooner rather than later.
Sure.
Because obviously we're gonna go out to bid fairly soon. But the other question is, did you say that there was, then we would need, kind of before even the PLA, we have to or we should get kind of a third party?
I think it's a state law. Right.
So if that's a state law,
That's
then we
right.
have to do that before the PLA even, so now we're kind of even
But you'd wanna
tightening our
bring,
schedule, right?
my opinion would be that from what I've read, you wanna bring Mr. Langlace in and this committee
First.
decide that we're not interested in the PLA,
Right.
because you wouldn't wanna pay for an analysis and then,
right.
but not be interested, so.
But I'm just saying, there is kind of a
There's a
tighter
time.
timeline
Right, we
because
need a
then.
timeline, so
Right.
we would receive approval from RIDE, and the council in May. So we want this done before May, and later on our agenda, we're talking about the RFQ for architectural services for CID projects and RFP for OPM, because both of those contracts are up. So, you know, I think time-wise, you know, we would want the presentation in the next meeting.
Yes.
So then we can move forward, if we are going to move forward with that, right, then get the analysis, so that way, if that is what we're doing, we know by the time we bring in OPM services, architectural services, then needing to get the construction manager.
Right.
So, I think,
Just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure, because
just make sure.
obviously we only meet every
Right.
certain, you know, period of time, so we kind of have to
So
work
would that be at
backwards
the
here.
April 9th meeting?
that would be, yes, April 9th.
Our
Oh,
next
it's
meeting is
not.
April 9th.
The study that about the PLA takes about, I think it took in 2021, it took about 6 weeks to do,
Wow.
from the time they started.
That's a long time.
For
I think it
analysis.
was for that, well, that council at that time, that lawyer took about, I think it was 4 to 6 weeks, because I remember needing it sooner and.
Yes.
But again, don't quote me on that, that was a one entity, there may be something that like.
The construction manager has to be in place prior to starting the stage 3.
No,
No?
no,
We
it
can
has
wait.
to be, the construction manager is best to be in place at the end of schematic design
Okay,
stage.
so that-
So
alright,
you
so
have
that- so
until
that-
at least September.
So we have,
Okay,
so we have
okay.
more time than
Yeah.
that.
Because
Not
that's
saying that
4 to
this is
6
off,
weeks
but I'm
is
just
like
saying,
scary.
once we look at this,
Right.
right, and we count that out, they come April, we move forward with that, right, that's taking us into June,
Mhm.
and then if that is what we're doing, right, we have
Right.
that plus the bidding process for the construction manager.
Yeah, it would just be nice to
No,
work with a
that's-
comfortable timeline instead of a
Right, right.
crunch
Yeah.
timeline.
So quick for the discussion, real quick, I didn't realize we had April 9th in the schedule, which is great, so based on that, we're obviously inviting him to attend April 9th, so I think the invite should come from either the co-chairs or the superintendent.
Okay.
So what whatever,
Work on that.
Sure.
you know, so that's up to you.
You wanna do that tomorrow?
Yep.
Yeah.
I have a question.
You can do it.
What kind of analysis they do, or they require?
It's basically, they take, all the sort of facts into consideration, and they write a report of pros and cons of why
So
you would
financial.
or wouldn't do a PLA.
It's all financial analysis, or it has to also
It's
do-
more of like logistical analysis and specifically geared towards the project. So it would be like taking into consideration your past experience, your future experience, the current environment, why you should do it, why you shouldn't do it, what the cost benefits and legal benefits or not or pros and cons are. So and it's just it's basically like a summary report of, I don't know, 10, 15 pages that the council does, but it's I'm pretty sure that you have to do it.
Okay.
You don't recall the last one part of what the cost was for the analysis, do you? Sure it will be.
Yes.
In 2021, the cost was 10,000. I think.
Is that bond money?
Yeah, my opinion would
I
be
would
yes.
say yes.
Okay.
And
But
you
we
would
did
have to procure.
Just have to know, like, that's now, let's say 10,000, or probably more than that now, right? That's gonna come out of what we have in for the projects.
Does that require school committee or town council approval in the end? Who would do?
So if
approve
we're,
that?
anything that we are using from the bond has to go to school committee
Oh,
and town
That's what
council,
I thought.
so
I stayed
if
the
that's what we
calendars and
get,
meetings and stuff.
if
so
that's what we decide to do,
We'll make the
once we
recommendation.
get
and
the
then-
contract, we would then have to put that forward.
So it's just another time consideration we gotta schedule in there.
And the procurement of the person, or company who will
Right.
write the report, so, because you will have to,
Oh, is that an RFP?
well, I don't think they're on the MPA, I'm not sure actually, but it was a law firm that did it.
Okay.
So however you would procure a law firm to do something for you, so that's what you need to follow. So we were able to, I think it was, but it was COVID too, so it was a little bit different at the time, so I think we were able to either solicit quotes or something like that, but it's up to the committee and procurement laws, the local ones, to basically solicit a law firm to do that. And I think there's a couple of law firms that do it, So I can recommend the people I worked with when needed.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. We'll move on to the next item then, which is the review of the RFP for the OPM.
So the contract with Jacobs, that contract only went through submission of stage 2. So we need to go back out to bid for OPM services for the remainder of the projects. This would be for the middle school as well as the capital improvement projects. So we have a draft RFP to review. What I'm asking is that if you mind, we'll take some time right now to look at it, and then I'll ask for approval for us to forward it to our attorney and school committee for approval. I'd like to get it to the attorney just to review prior to it going to the school committee. As far as a timeline of what we're looking at, that's in here, but I'll just kind of say it now. What we would look at right now as a draft is that it would go to school committee at the April 8th meeting. We have school committee on Tuesday, but I feel like we're really I'm trying to really rush that through. If I try to get to the attorney now, get to the school committee, I'd rather have a little more time in between that. So from tonight, if we get the okay here, send it to our attorney to review. It'll go on the school committee agenda for April 8th for approval of the school committee to submit the RFP. It would get posted April 9th. It would close April 25th, and then it would be the awarding process. And I was talking to Ralph right prior to this meeting. It has to go to school committee and then town council, because these would be covered through bond funds. So we would make a recommendation to the school committee for the May 6th school committee meeting, which means we're gonna have to add a building committee meeting because it has to go through this advisory first of what we're recommending to school committee. That would go on May 6th to school committee, and then the next town council meeting, which I need to look at what that date would be. I was trying to pull it up, but it would go to the following town council meeting. And time-wise, that works. I mean, that covers us to what we need, because we would then be getting approval in May for the stage 2, and then have OPM services in place for that.
So this would be for stages 3 through 5, the
This-
OPM
yeah,
for
this-
the remainder of the
Yeah,
project.
this is the remainder of the
And
project.
the second question is, Kenny, having never done this before, is this a standard RFP? Obviously, you have other people in place going to look at it, but I don't wanna necessarily okay something tonight.
It's gonna go, yeah, so we're gonna give it to the attorney
Okay.
to look at, to make sure everything's covered in
Okay.
this. And then pass it to the school committee for approval, so school committee will get final approval of this getting posted.
Cause I don't wanna vote on something that I have no idea,
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not the
no,
expert on.
I really, I mean, this
Yeah.
is just as advisory,
Okay.
looking at it, really kind of looking at the dates, the content, we'll have the attorney look at it. I do have copies for the public, so.
I believe our only council meeting in May, I'm gonna confirm, is May 12th. Does that work, or does that throw things off?
I think it's fine. Yeah, it should.
Is this the same
Maybe we'll see
boiler,
if anybody wants.
is this the same boilerplate as? Is this the same boilerplate as the original one that went up?
So we used, we looked at that last one as well as others for reference.
So this is altered from the first one?
Yeah.
And just a question, the first one didn't have option to extend?
It did not, I don't, know it did
I
not.
don't think that you could. You remember that I even asked the
Yeah,
question.
probably because, I think it was because
Yeah.
it was
Switch
specific
going
to the stage 2, and then you had to end it there, and then,
Yeah, because I remember asking
and
what
this,
sense makes to change in the middle of the
and then
work.
this will bring us to the end of the projects.
So you wish to have another OPM.
What was that?
You wish to have another OPM.
We do, and that's what will happen, right? So, the RFP will go out, we'll get the proposals, we'll review them, and then we make a recommendation. So yeah, so there's a potential for change in OPM services as well as architectural services for the capital improvement projects. And both firms know that, based on their contract.
commenting on this now, or are we waiting for people to kind of review it?
Why don't we just give a few more minutes, I know. So that would actually come back to us. You should, as the supervisor, you should. And then we have a release. Yeah, so just so Ralph was just asking who assigns the points. That's something we would do. That's what I was saying. We would need to add another meeting because that is something that we would bring to the building advisory committee to review the bids.
So
Did that happen? I'm curious, did that happen last time? Or what happened last time?
I
How was
don't
it?
remember.
I don't remember either.
Okay. My recommendation would be that we bring the bid, the proposals that we received back here for us to review and to score, and then we send it off to school committee. And then
So that is what happened last time. I thought you meant who did the score. It did come from here. I don't remember us actually scoring like that, but
Okay.
maybe the RFP was worded differently. But I do remember the building committee, and it may not have been, maybe the building committee reviewing the RFPs and then making a recommendation to the school committee. I
So-
do remember that.
So,
There was no score last
I
time.
didn't
I
think
was
so.
gonna say, the questions between RFP and RFQ, the RFP
You're-
is based on the
You're the
proposal,
proposal and you're looking at pricing.
RFQ, you can't ask for cost,
so then
It's
why are we looking
qualification.
at scoring?
because and I'm sorry, so my understanding, you would know probably more than me.
No, no.
An RFQ, you can't ask for cost. An RFP, you can evaluate any way you want. An RFP could be solely on costs, or an RFP could be pure formula. In this case, this RFP has a formula where you get so many points for staff, so many points for capability, so many points for work plan. You can do that in an RFP. An RFP, you can design scoring, you can just be strictly cost. But an RFP, you can't break it down to qualifications and cost. RFQ, you can't ask for cost.
I can
This-
explain.
What's that?
I can explain.
Oh, good, no, please do, especially if what I said is wrong.
I just-
So,
usually-
so if you award to, you can award to the sort of, it's based on price and qualification. So you have to, RFP is based on the most qualified, well-priced candidate. So you do have to qualify and then look at pricing, because that gives you the most qualified with the price. That's how you procure OPMs and CMs. It's the same process. So for architects, you just have to do it based on qualifications, not price. But then when price is submitted post award, when you choose your favorite, if the price is too high, you have the right to go to the runner-up and the runner-up. So or negotiate. So that's what the
Right, we
architects.
can negotiate too with the RFP.
Yes.
the architect.
So,
Absolutely.
so just going to clarify something, so an RFQ, you're right, you can't talk cost, right, you can't be cost, but an RFP, you're saying law is RFP for an OPM,
And
you,
CM.
or CM, you have to have it broken down like this.
You don't have to, but
Okay,
you can.
right,
So you have to.
you could just have cost.
You could just have
Right,
cost,
that's what I
but
said.
then you have no qualifications,
Correct.
then anybody can come in and say, I'll do it for $1, but how do
Right,
you
it's
know
the
they're
lowest qualified bidder.
Right.
You don't wanna go based just on the cost, because you might not really be
Yeah,
getting
not
what you-
necessarily no qualified, it's
Okay.
just, you have to just take in account the capacity of the company to do the work.
On the town
Okay?
side,
Yeah,
it's
we
always
do
the
the
lowest
same thing.
qualified bidder, we
Correct.
never have a score like this, but you
No.
can't.
We don't
No.
score it, but we kind of have a set of a criteria to evaluate the candidates.
You actually don't have to award to the lowest. you can choose how you want to weigh your, and that's not because I'm talking to my behalf, I'm just saying how it is done. And that's how we submit it to other towns and districts. So the town chooses how you want to weigh the different sections, say experience, past experience, local presence, team, and cost. So you give points to each. If you want your cost to be a higher point value, then it will be weighed more. If you want it to be a lower and you care about experience or something else, it's weighed less, right? And then at the end you have your total scoring, and that's how you score, and then the committee votes.
And there's a formula
So-
in here on how we deal with the cost piece.
But
So-
again, what I'm stating is that the formula we have in here is voluntary. So that's something that it sounds like we've chosen to do, which I think is great. On our end, on the town side, a lot of the times it's the lowest qualified bidder, which sometimes doesn't work to our advantage, because as the three of us know, pretty much everybody's qualified. So you almost have to go to the low bidder. And so in this particular case, they're giving points on other things which you can't do on an RFP. RFQ has to be strictly qualifications.
Well, so then, to clarify, if this is the RFP that we are going to be sending to the lawyers, this is the approach we are going to take, this is the criteria.
Right, that's what we
So,
wanna do.
not to say that was all a moot point conversation, because it was a good explanation, but this is what we're going to be using for our purposes, right? This is the formula.
Right, that's
So
what,
this is
that's
our
what we,
formula,
that's
this
what we would
is,
like to
and
use.
we all, if we all agree upon it, this is gonna be the formula we're using.
Right.
Just,
Okay.
we just don't generally score on an RFP, that's
Correct.
really what my question was.
Correct. But we,
Making sure we're calling this what you wanna call it.
Right,
You're
right.
scoring, we don't score, we check references and do all of our, that's all, no problems.
It's almost like RFQ/P, that's what it becomes.
So I do have another question on page 9, the RFP calendar, where the March 24th date was crossed out.
Yes, I
Um,
did that.
It seems a little bit tight, and maybe I just don't know enough about this process. It seems like, you know, you've cut out now, I don't know, a couple weeks to
You
get
have
to the
to, you have to
RFP.
give at least 10 business days.
Okay, but that's,
This gives a little bit more than 10.
but that's not like a tight timeline? Okay,
I think we'll be okay.
okay.
Yeah, I think, I mean, if we wanna push it out, we can. We just wanna make sure we're aligning ourselves up with the upcoming school committee meeting. And then, I'm sorry, Ralph, you said town council was May?
May 12th.
12th.
I'll confirm that, but I'm pretty sure it's May 12th.
So our May 6th school committee, then the following week's May 12th for the town,
Okay.
that would all align for that process. And I put the same dates in the other one too, so it's on the same.
You can also choose to interview, and if you have a tight timeline, you can put the interview date in the RFP, so that those who submit know when it is. So it could be like right away. I mean, we've gone to interviews like the next day. That's entirely up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the committee, either on content, timeline?
Yeah, I got a few. Couple of things I just wanted to bring up, as talking points. And again, this is just from like, as we move forward with this process, the role of the OPM in terms of the work we're about to do with everything. So, a couple things came to mind just from my experience with this a little bit. So, and this really has to do with more of the work plan. One of the things I noticed was on page 3, it says the middle school construction will be carried out in 2 phases, phase 3 and phase 4. Is there, is this,
Phase
right?
5.
Shouldn't there be a phase 5?
It should be, that should say through phase 5.
Okay, so we probably wanna put that in,
Stage 5.
yeah, or stage 5, right?
Yes, stage 3 and
Yeah.
3, 4, 5.
Okay. And then, again, this is just, these are concerns whether they shape up into language, but things that I think we have to make sure we consider. First of all, ensuring that the OPM's role in ensuring that minimal disruption is happening to educational programming and instruction during the construction process, I think is really important. You know, now whether, I don't know if that language like that specifically belongs in the RFP, but I think that's important to note. things similar to that, making sure that the OPM is coordinating, during the construction process, access to fields, making sure that, you know, school evacuations can be done properly, making sure that traffic flow is coordinated so that that can happen during the construction process. Parking, pickup, drop-off procedures for families, these are all things that obviously come up during this process that the OPM needs to have a central role with, working with schools on. Move management is a big undertaking, for something like this. Move management's a really big undertaking, so I think we might wanna look at some specificity there around coordination of, you know, trucks, boxes, processes with teachers being able to, and staff being able to pack up their belongings and move them effectively into a new facility. What's the OPM's role in kind of coordinating that process? You know, another thing I thought of is like just the process of breaking ground on a new you know, facility. That's a ceremonial, celebratory type of event. What type is OPM's role in something like that? Ribbon cutting procedures, like things of that nature, where we're coordinating to celebrate that achievement. The certification of occupancy process, what's the OPM's role with that, to make sure that the new building is open and ready to be receiving the cert of occupancy. And then the closeout process, right? The OPM's role in ensuring that at the end of the project, all of the construction work matches the designs, making sure that all of the punch list items are addressed, just making sure that that's all there. Again, these are just things I have with experience with projects. We can defer to the lawyer a little bit on whether they belong in an RFP, but it's just things
I think what we do is we revise this draft to include all that before we submit it.
Okay.
I think those are all important points that you're talking about, that we will be going through within this process, that we're going to have to be dealing with, and we wanna make sure that whoever we hire knows this is part of their responsibility of coordinating for us.
I think also that's where a contract comes in very
Yeah.
nicely.
Yeah.
So that, you know, we can make sure that we are all on the same page legally.
You just need, just a comment, high-level comment. A lot of those things are, not the move management, but a lot of the things you just mentioned is actually a construction manager at risk that does it. And the OPM just makes sure that that happens.
Right.
So just so you know, there's another level of entity there's going to be on this project, which is the construction manager. So if it was a lump sum project, and if it is a lump sum project at any time, the OPM takes more on that role that you just listed. But if there is a construction manager, then they do that. That's part of what they do. And then the OPM sort of makes sure that that happens and then oversees and confirms that the accuracy of these procedures.
Correct.
The move management is done by the OPMs.
Yep, yeah, no, I know, and just in my experience, it's best when we have like coordination, communication that happens through the OPM with the construction side.
Any other comments,
It's a lot to digest.
feedback?
Yes.
So, I'm gonna put a suggestion out there that review this and send us any other feedback, because it's not gonna go to school committee until April 8th. What I'd like to do is get the okay from all of you to be able to move this on to the attorney to review, and then we'll include any other feedback that you have for us to put in the final document that goes to school committee.
And we'll have another building subcommittee before the night.
Yeah, when's our?
April 9th.
It's supposed to be April 9th, but, so do we need to add another
We can, I mean,
event,
we
or?
can if we want to review this again before it goes to school committee.
I didn't know if we needed an official vote on it.
Well, we can, if we want to, we can vote that it goes forward, knowing that we're gonna include any other feedback in the review of the attorney.
So if it's appropriate, and if it's not, please let me know. I'll make a motion that we forward this to the attorney, and that the committee members have, it's Wednesday, so 48 or 72 hours to get back to the superintendent with any recommendations that he can then forward to the attorney to review while he or she is going through this agreement.
Is there a second?
I second.
And just part of that discussion on the probably, we could move the building committee meeting up, so if we wanna review it prior, we can just move that meeting if we want to.
I don't think it's necessary, that's why I made the motion I made, but if people think it is, that's fine. I think that, that we trust those who put this together, we trust the attorney to make sure it's all set, the school committee has to look at it, council's going to see it, and we have 3 days to look at it and provide comments to the superintendent. I think that's more than fair, but if anybody disagrees, I'm okay with that, but I don't think it's necessary.
I like the 72 hours to be able to just kind of buzz through it.
Excellent.
If there's any random comments.
Just send an email to the superintendent.
I'll call the vote then. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. So send in your comments to the superintendent. Next on the agenda is the review of the RFQ for architectural firm for capital projects, which sounds like it might be something similar.
I'm just, because we don't have Jeannie here taking notes, who
Right.
seconded it, I'm just writing this down. Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, I swear they didn't use right.
We'll have some of what the video, but this way it's. Alright, so this is similar, we have RFQ for architectural engineering services. Our contract with Rouse, who's handling all of the capital improvement projects, that contract was only through stage 2. So we need to put the request for qualifications out to hire the architect to cover our capital improvement projects through stage 5 at the end of completion. Dates on here are very similar. I keep it the same with the OPM services. So those dates are the same. We just need to add the town council date into here, May 12th.
So, a quick question, so if we hire another architect to come in, what are we losing from the original architect? Are they gonna have to redesign and re-look at
No,
all
they,
of these
so,
different
so
pieces?
if the advisory board and then the committee, school committees and town council agree to hire someone different, we would have the current plans, we would pass those off to the new firm, if there's a new firm. Rouse has been working in this district for many years, so they have historical knowledge of the district. So if we did go with someone else, you'd lose that piece of it, of someone having all the historical knowledge of the facilities in town.
Not to circumvent process, but we've had things in the past where we've had an architect of record. Now, I might be wrong with some of this, but does that hold any weight with not going out for qualifications because of all of the work that's already been put into all of this? I mean, there could be substantial money in.
I'd have to discuss that with their attorney, because we have to make sure that we are following state laws.
Okay.
The contract was only through stage 2. I will have that discussion with him.
It could be a
And
savings.
just to reference that this is, someone that has worked in this district for many years.
And on the specific projects that we're looking to move forward. It's not like they did 3 projects and another school that we're not even touching. I mean,
Yeah.
these are the projects that are ahead of us. So there could just be a savings.
I have a question that may not apply to this, but I'll go anyway. So Rouse is our current architect. He's been the architect for a while. How does he get compensated? How do they get compensated?
Currently,
Yes.
anything that we did that's been coming through surplus, through our budget.
So it's through the budget.
So that was the budget moving forward to be part of the bond.
And so that's something that was in the FY '25 budget that's not in the FY '26 budget. You cut that?
That's not in there because all of this that's all of the work they're doing is coming out of the bond.
Right, so I'm saying, so Rouse had an expenditure that was probably somewhere in your FY '24 and '25 budget,
Right.
but it's not in the FY '26 budget. So this will go to the town council for approval.
This would have to go, yes, this would have to go to the town council as well, because this all falls under the bond projects
Gotcha.
that we have. We did write up within the submission to RIDE that there was the additional projects to get approval for, to get reimbursement if there were funds available through the operating budget to do. But the majority of the projects are all through the bonds.
Perfect, thanks.
Does that answer your question?
Yes. go ahead.
Ralph, to add on to that and to be very upfront with everyone here, I am extremely confused about Rouse's relationship to all of this, including the fact that, from what I understand, there has not been a contract being able to be found for Rouse going back like 30 years. So the first thing is, if we're going to continue with Rouse, I am absolutely demanding that we have a contract in place with anyone going forward, because I have not been able to get that answer cleared up. The second thing is, as far as going forward, we don't have Rouse in the budget. The truth is, I've asked some questions. I'm not sure how we're budgeting Rouse, really. And it's a very uncomfortable thing to say, but it's just the truth, and there's no other place I can say it. I would like to go back and find out, how are we paying Rouse? From what I understand, what I've heard from some people that I've asked, we're kind of paying them as the projects come up. There's really, I don't know that there's anything been budgeted specifically. Like each year we have, you know, because if we don't have a contract with them, we don't have, I don't know if there's a fee schedule with them.
There was, and I thought I shared with you when you asked for the contracts.
There were
what
like
we had
line
from-
items, but it was, and I actually even emailed Rouse directly, and I
Yeah.
still haven't heard from
No,
them.
it was a total dollar amount of what they would be, what they were hired for. I gotta go back, I don't wanna put the amount out there without having it in front of me, but it was a complete, total amount for them to complete these projects through stage 2, but that was from like a few years back.
Right.
And I'm saying that was prior to me, so that's what I'm saying, that's going back a few
This is
years
not-
ago. And
there
I'm
were
not
so
saying
many
that-
different people
but I'm
involved,
just saying,
but-
that's why I'm trying to go back to what that
Right.
amount was, and then over time, those, what was requested to complete that, some of it came from, I wanna look at it one front because I wanna say something, but we had some of it was coming out of like fund balance, when we had to make requests for use of the fund balance, so it wasn't that it was budgeted completely in the past operating budgets.
Just to be very clear, when I came to look at all this stuff for the first time as a school committee member, it is not that easy to understand, and I would like, as I have mentioned, I'd like almost like a self-audit. I'd like us to be much more clear about where this money is coming from. Also, Rouse is, I just learned this myself, kind of like our CIP architect firm, whereas we also have Perkins Eastman, and from my understanding, Perkins Eastman is only going to be the Wickford Middle School architect firm. So if you're talking about historical, a historical firm, that you're probably referring to Rouse versus Perkins Eastman. Right, so yes, Rouse has the history of our district, but Perkins Eastman is now working on the middle school building, kind of in conjunction.
But you have
Right,
a
but
lot of
these
other
are-
projects associated with the other schools.
Right,
Rouse.
with Rouse.
Yeah.
No, absolutely.
Right, I mean, so Perkins Eastman, there was the approval back when previous school committee administration, right? Reviewed the RFQs for the architectural firm for the new Wickford Middle School, or the new middle school at the time. And that was approved to have Perkins Eastman through completion. So we are not talking about the architecture for the middle school. This is just for the capital improvement projects that we have separate from Wickford Middle School. That Rouse was hired to do the stage 1, stage 2 a few years back, right? They've done that for us, with our submission in stage 2. They've also historically have been the architects and engineering firm in this town that we've used for other projects that we've had.
Right.
I think that's what Adam's just referencing, that,
Well, I'm referencing the additional project bond related that he's already worked on, produced some plans for. But you hand it to another architect, they're gonna have their point of review in there. It's how it's gonna go. They're not gonna say, okay, let's build it. They're gonna look at everything, they're gonna assess it, they might make changes to it, like all of that takes time and money.
So I guess this is, the point though, this is an RFQ. that is not pricing. So Rouse will be able to say that as one of their qualifications, right?
I get it.
So I guess I feel like those are absolutely true, that they should have a leg up on this, and would be more efficient. But since they're not asking for pricing, and that it isn't like they're gonna get undercut by somebody, because that's not part of this, right?
To Adam's point, and I believe, what I recall is that Edward Rouse developed a master plan for all the capital improvement projects here in Arkansas. And the last I remember was that they were working on the mechanical for Whitney, the high school, and some other facilities. So I guess what the point that he's trying to say obviously is everything has been developed, and I'm not 100% sure why we cut that off. Stage 2, correct me if I'm wrong, I think it was contracted for the new school, not for the capital improvement. It was for the capital improvement.
It was for capital improvement.
Rouse has, although there is no, and that was before my time as well, but there is no AIA contract with terms and conditions, which we couldn't find one. There is a proposal with limited terms and conditions that was signed and approved. I don't know exactly how and when, but it was at least a year prior Wickford Middle School project started, for specifically stage 2 application for CIP projects. This is what they're billing from, this is what they're working under. So it's not like they're working without a contract, without a price. There is a number available. I did that spreadsheet. Once you have a chance, Dr. Dover, to review, you can share it. But they do have a finite amount, and this is the contract that they have been the value for the application to write. It's just it's been dragging for so many years, right? So, and they never came back for a change order per se for this time that lapsed, but they were brought on by the town, by the school department of the town, to complete a stage 2 application. It just wasn't completed like in 2022. It was not, obviously, like then it was 2023, and then now they're working under that same approval. And they have submitted everything that has to do with the CIP project. So Perkins Eastman only worked on the portion that had to do with Wickford Middle School. They worked on the portion that has to do with the CIP projects, and we worked on the portion that we coordinate and the budgeting and the scheduling pieces of that same application. So there's 2 architects that contributed to the stage 2. Now, in terms of monies, like you had mentioned, how the monies are allocated in the future, each project, so each school has soft costs that were associated with the estimates that were submitted to write. So that cost includes the architect's fee, and that is within the 60 million allocation. So each project has that fee in it. So it's a percentage allocation.
Are the documents related to Rouse, anything related to Rouse, the agreement, the costs, the pricing, are they available online for us to access?
The proposal is available, and I believe Dr. Dooley.
No, I actually was just looking on the website. It's not on the website, so
Okay. Because if we could get that, I mean, I'd like to look at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But I
And it's a
did
simple
give that to you,
proposal.
though.
Yeah, I know what you're
requested
saying.
all that,
Yep.
and I gave all that to you.
Yes. I haven't gone through all the boxes.
Okay. Yeah,
I think it's important to clarify the fact that probably it looks like they have been working on this since 2020 or so, but it has to be, you guys have to remember that from 2022, a lot of these projects were delayed because of supply.
Right.
In other words, mechanical equipment that it was supposed to be installed today, it took a year for them to get them. And I think that is the reason why all of a sudden it looks like this guy have been on that job for 5 years, but in reality, it hasn't been 5 years.
Correct, and it was their proposal very clearly identifies that they own the stage 2 and the checklist and everything that has to do with it. So they have been working from that approval.
So So it sounds, okay,
I know in the process when we were building the high school, the new high school, the architect, the main architect, he actually teamed up with another architect firm who actually did the inside of the building, I think. They were more of the outside of the building structure, and then they brought in another architect firm who basically did all the education and stuff. So the two of them, they kind of worked together, and I mean, money-wise, I don't know how they figured it out, but it was, I think the architect, he hired his own firm that helped him.
so it sounds like, this architectural firm had a contract only through stage 2. So we need to put out a new RFQ. So based on that, and based on the fact that I know there's a school committee meeting here in about 20 minutes, I would make a motion similar to my first motion with the original RFP, that we send this RFQ to legal counsel for review, that we as a committee have 72 hours to provide comments to our superintendent. He would forward those comments over to the legal firm. Legal firm, once they revise it, then get to the school committee, and then we would then, we will, aside from the motion, we will be the firm that ends, we will be the entity that ends up scoring, so we'll have a lot of say in this, but my motion is to have the superintendent send this to legal counsel for review, and that we have 72 hours to get to the superintendent with any comments, in which he will then forward to legal counsel.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. I just have
Me.
one, yeah.
I was like, any.
One question on the process, because this came up last time when we did an RFQ for the architecture. When we do the RFQ, we are basing it on qualifications only. And then are we able to negotiate price after that? And if we don't like them, then we go to the second highest rated?
That is my understanding of how that's
Okay,
supposed to
I just wanted to point that out because I know that's created some confusion last time when we did it with the architect. So just to point out that that's what, we're actually ranking them in order that we want to work with based on qualifications only. Then we can negotiate price and try to come to an agreement. And if we can't, then we move down the process at some point. So.
You should put a clause into the RFQ though, that that this committee will be reviewing based on qualifications and, has the right to negotiate pricing at the end.
That's a good point. Can we add that?
And also it should be, and all costs should be within, the allowable percentage, in the RIDE approval budgets.
Any other comments?
Because they can come in and say, oh no, we're 15%, but it's like, say, a RIDE will allow 7 to 10% or something like that. So, not allow, but recommend, so it should be within the
So,
recommended.
I have based
amount.
on qualifications, school committee has the right to negotiate costs, and what was the comment regarding the RIDE?
That the
Falls within the
the
recommended.
selected architect should, I don't know how to even word it, but basically should be priced within the allowable allocations in the stage 2 application. I have to think about proper wording, it doesn't come up right.
As determined by RIDE.
Well, RIDE doesn't determine, RIDE recommends, and we
Okay.
put so each budget sheet for each project has sort of a recommended percentage for what the fee is, so industry standard, but RIDE recommends from 7 to 10% for architecture fees, like, say up to 3% for OPM, for 0.5% for commissioning. So it's kind of in that breakdown. So because these budgets are kind of based on construction costs, if the architect is higher, say 15%, which some are, from construction costs, then it eats into your soft costs, which you cannot exceed 20%, so it kind of like disbalances everything. So I always try to say that this is the right project and the architect's fee has to be within those boundaries.
All right, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of the proposal to forward our comments within 72 hours to the superintendent and then put this out. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We'll let the superintendent work his magic.
Just to comment back, just about
Yep.
the contract, we have that proposal, and it was a flat fee of $236,000 due for previous stage 2.
All right, we'll move on to the next item. update on stage 2 submission.
So, I don't have much to go over for that. We submitted the stage 2 February 15th. We received confirmation from the SBA that they have it, and they're reviewing it, and we are waiting for feedback and comments.
So what's the process going forward? They'll give more feedback and comments?
They will let us know that what they've received, they have anything, or if they're asking for anything else. I know we're trying to get a meeting with them next Thursday.
Thursday.
Right? So hopefully we can.
So there could be some more back and forth?
There could be,
maybe.
Yep, there could be. There could be something to look at, they want
Yep.
further explanation on, or they might say, no, you have everything.
Okay. Any other comments?
Is there a link to the stage 2 submission on the school committee's website?
We need to put that on there, right?
What is it?
We have a link to the submission with all
Yes.
the drives, so we'll need to put that up on there.
Anything else?
We can do that combined file since I'm working on the news.
All right, then we'll move on to the next item, which is the update of the demographic study.
Yeah, so we had a preliminary meeting with Cropper yesterday. They're finalizing their report, and we should have that within the next 2 weeks. And once we have that with we'll be able to submit that to RIDE as their request, and then we're gonna put it on a school committee agenda for the firm to come in and make a presentation to the school committee. So we just need to with that final report. We've gone through the data that we've provided to them, and they're finishing up writing up their report regarding methodology, resources that we use.
Any comments?
And the purpose of that was to allow the change in size at Wickford Middle School? Is that what?
No,
or is this just
it wasn't.
school-wide?
It was
Okay.
not for that reason.
Okay.
As RIDE was saying, that what we submitted wasn't the most recent study for them to look at the next 10 years.
Okay.
And they wanted an additional study done
Okay.
that would relook at everything, look at all the developments, even though it was there, they then asked for another study to be added into what we've done. And that was at the request of RIDE, SBA.
Anyone else? All right, so the next item is the next meeting date should be April 9th, 2025. I guess that'll be at 4:30 here in the school department administrative offices. Anybody have an issue with that or comment about that or anything?
I'm sorry,
Nope.
I won't be here, I'll be away with family.
Okay,
Just-
we will miss you. and we'll-
Thank you. But apologies in advance, that just couldn't be avoided.
Family first.
Yes, thank you.
Anybody else? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All right,
We all
then
second.
you can decide who that was. All right, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll move downstairs.
Yeah, right?
I go to the next one. Work phone, check phone.
Hall of Fame meeting.
In the language, you should put not like that, you shouldn't do the, with the architect.